Hey, this is Uncle Justin and family coming to you live from the Philippines. Well, I'm live anyway. Today I wanted to talk to you about an issue that the Philippines has to deal with, unfortunately, and that is the issue with the rabies virus. As you probably know, there's lots of animals here in the Philippines, whether you're in the city or out in the province. There's, of course, your chickens, which I've got a whole bunch of chickens standing in front of me right now. I've got lots of cats, lots of dogs. They're everywhere. And my neighbor happens to have a dog, and the dog is really a great dog. And when I got here, I talked to the neighbor. Dog's in good health. I like the dog. I pet the dog, no problem. So one day, getting ready to leave to the house, we were going to go to the movies. The family and I were going to go to the movies, and the neighbor was out there with the dog on the leash, and I went over and let the dog sniff me. I pet the dog, and as I was pulling my hand back, the dog jumped up and bit me. He left 3 puncture marks in my arm. So of course, tricycle. So of course the first thing I did was go to the sink and wash the wounds out. And then Lonnie told me, hey, we're going to the bite clinic. And yes, I did say bite clinic. In the Philippines, they have freestanding clinics as well as clinics attached to hospitals that do nothing but treat bites and scratches from animals. Because they don't want people getting rabies. Unfortunately, rabies is, I think, close to 100% fatal when a human gets it. So off we go to the clinic. I get there, talk to the nurse. I said, hey, the dog seems to be pretty healthy. The owner told me that the dog has been vaccinated. And I said, in the US, if you can prove that the dog has been vaccinated, rabies shots are kind of, optional. They don't really push it. But as they don't really push you getting the shots, but if you want them, they'll go ahead and give it to you. And the nurse said, yes, because that's true in the US and in some Western nations. But here in the Philippines, veterinarians have problems with ordering the vaccine, and they think that they are getting a good, legitimate vaccine from their supplier. But unfortunately, someplace along the chain of buying it, they were duped, and it is a counterfeit vaccine. So another problem that they have is veterinarians placing the order. They get a good vaccine. The vaccine is shipped to them, but something goes wrong during the supply lines, during the transit to the veterinarian, where the vaccine is stored improperly and is spoiled by the time it gets to the vet, and the vet doesn't know it. I think that really sucks that there are people who have to go and spend money on getting their dogs vaccinated, trying to do what's right. Veterinarians working hard to provide a service, but they get crappy service or a crappy vaccine, and that ends up threatening public health. But that's just the way it is here right now. So, knowing how serious rabies virus is, knowing that vaccines just aren't as effective against it, I guess, here in the Philippines as they are back in the US, went ahead and got the shots. On my first visit, it was 10 shots. The first 2 shots were to check for any type of reaction to the medicines that they were about to give me. When there was no reaction, I got a tetanus immunoglobulin shot in one arm. I got a tetanus vaccine in the other arm. Then I got rabies immunoglobulin at each of the 3 puncture marks in my arm, and then I believe another 3 rabies shots in arm and 1 in my leg. And let me tell you, the shots hurt. Thankfully, the nurse said that they no longer give them in the stomach, so I was happy about that. But especially the immunoglobulin shots, however you pronounce that, those really hurt when they went in. But I'm thankful that we got it done. When we left, the nurse gave me some antibiotics and told me that I could take the Tylenol or Advil for pain. And of course, we had to come back for booster shots on 2 different occasions. And yeah, those shots didn't hurt quite as bad as the original immunoglobulin shots, but they did kind of sting going on. The other thing that happened is that the total cost for this unplanned trip to the bike clinic was about 16,000 Philippine pesos. And 16,000 Philippine pesos works out to be a little over 300 US dollars. The neighbor who owned the dog was very kind and took part of the responsibility for his dog biting me and paid half of the expense. And I was humbled that he did that and very thankful. Lonnie and I are by no means poor, but $300 worth of shots definitely was not in our budget for that month. And honestly, I don't think it's in many people's budgets. So you come to the Philippines, you're coming to have fun, you're on a tourist vacation, maybe you come to meet somebody. Be careful around the animals. There are a lot of animals roaming the streets, and they're not always in the best of health, unfortunately. So think twice before you put yourself into a position where you could get bit. Myself, I still like to feed the local stray cats. I like to leave out some scraps for the dogs when they come, hunting for some food. But I put myself in a position, or try to put myself in a position to where I'm not going to get bit. However you can work that out, I recommend it, because it's just not worth taking the chance of getting rabies, and it's certainly not good to take a $300 financial hit just because you were trying to pet that cute little cat or that cute little dog or whatever. Anyhow, I will say, since I've been in the Philippines, well, when I first came to the Philippines 5 years ago, things have changed quite a bit. People are taking better care of their animals. There's a lot more pet stores where people are buying toys and foods and vitamins and stuff like that. So animal welfare is increasing here, and I love to see that, because that means people have the money to spend on their animals. So I think that's a positive thing for the Philippines. But still, you come to the Philippines, don't put yourself in a position to get bit. All right. Thank you for listening to me ramble on and on about not getting bit in the Philippines and my experience with it. If you've made it this far, please do me a favor, like, comment, share, or subscribe. And hopefully we'll get some new videos out soon. Thanks, guys.